Good afternoon and welcome to today's webcast. I'm Dean Seddon, CEO and founder of Maverick, and today we're going to be looking at how do you raise your prices and rocket your profit. Now, as you're joining, some people will be watching on YouTube and LinkedIn. We're just getting the stream live. But I can see some of you on the chat here. I can see some of you have already joined. So I can see Hannah, I can see Ashwa, I can see Luke, I can see Monique, I can see Mimo. So welcome to today's session. We're going to kickstart in a couple of minutes. We've just sent an email out to let everybody know where to join. If you've got questions during today's session, our email address is on the screen somewhere there. So please just jump in and ask questions as we go. The first thing I want to say, and hopefully you can see this, I'm not sure which camera I'm on, but we've got a free resource today you can have. Just drop us an email. It's called the 100K PDF. And it's a walkthrough of how you can use one PDF to generate business. Just one PDF. You don't need a website. You don't need an ad campaign. One PDF will do it. So if you want a copy of this, just drop us an email to, no, I always get this wrong, to there, hi@maverick.io, and we will send it to you. So I can see Hathrad's joined and a few other people are joining across the different platforms now, which is brill. So what we're going to look at today is not how do you raise your prices because of inflation. What we're trying to do is how do you position based on a higher value service? In other words, how do you take your product from where it is or your service where it is and position it into a higher value service? So that's what we're going to look at, and we're going to look at the marketing of a higher value service. Many of you might have gone, do you know what? A lot of people tell me I'm undercharging. Our prices are too low. And just a little note here, sometimes charging too little can actually be the hindrance to sales. Hi Scott, hi Marco, welcome and joining us. We will be kicking off in a little minute. I'm just introing the session whilst people's joining on the different platforms. So sometimes a low price is actually the reason you're not selling. Why is that? Well, human nature says that, you just think about it in our own personal lives. When something's expensive, it's usually valuable. Yeah, I'm not saying all the time, and sometimes we go, that's overpriced. We always do that. But often our experience is that if you pay more for it, it's better. And when you pay less for it, it's cheaper. Think about it from the point of view of the supermarket. We go in and buy a tin of beans, yeah? You can get the supermarket's own label, you can get the cheap brand, and you can get the big name brand, yeah? They're all the same product, but some people choose the big name brand and some people choose the basic brand, yeah? And some people do the supermarket's own. People choose based on their expectation of the quality and the output that it is. So you would expect the tin of beans that charges £1 per tin and the tin of beans that charges 50p a tin, you would expect a quality difference. And actually, whilst they are made by the same company, there is a bit of a difference because the beans I can't believe I'm talking about beans, but it's human nature. You buy a tin of beans, the cheapy beans, and you find that the beans are a bit harder and the sauce is a bit, the liquid's a bit like thinner. Yeah, it's not as thick. So what I'm trying to say is, inbuilt within us, we have this perception that the more you pay for something, or within reason, the price you pay, there must be a better quality. And so that plays into human nature. So sometimes if you're charging £100 or £1,000 for something, and the market is charging, some people in the market charging £5,000, a lot of customers, a lot of your target clients will assume that the £5,000 service is better. When in a lot of circumstances, it's not. So we're going to look at how do you position for a higher price. And of course, if you're selling something for £5,000 today, and you can actually sell it for £7,500 or £6,000, the difference in the price drops down to your bottom line. It becomes your profit margin. So we're going to look at how do you do this? How do you position so that you can be perhaps more expensive than the market? So if the market average price is £2,500, how can you charge £3,500? And we're going to look at how that works. So hi Samantha, please do ask questions throughout the session. I'm going to walk through this now. I've got 3 diagrams, and like I said, the 100k PDF resource here, I've got a copy. It's a PDF. I've just printed this one out to show you. If you want a copy of the 100k PDF, we'll email it to you. Our email address is on screen, hi@maverick.io. Just drop us an email and we'll get it out to you. Maybe this afternoon, depending on how many people. There's a lot of people signed up for this, so it may take us till tomorrow. But if you want a copy of this, drop us an email and we'll send it to you. So, first things first. Do you want to say, anybody in the chat, whichever channel you're on, let me know, are you selling services or products? Services or products. If you're selling services, let me know. If you're selling products, let me know. And let me know if you're selling B2B or B2C. And whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to draw 2 diagrams and I'm going to explain this whole process in 2 diagrams. Yeah, so it looks like LT, but it's not. So are you selling services or products, and are you B2B or B2C? Put it in the chat. So Ruthel is services, so good. Services, good. Both B2B, brilliant. Services, yeah, perfect. So it looks like a lot of you are B2B and services, which is good, because this is where you can really add a lot of value. So the first things to understand about a price is we all have, and I put this on Twitter a few days ago, for somebody to pay you money for your service, they have to see that your service is worth more than the money. Yeah, your service in their heads, in their minds, has to be worth more than the money. So let me try and put this into context for a moment. Let's say, for an example, your product or your service is £10,000. So your service is £10,000. For a customer to agree to pay you £10,000, yeah, the benefit of giving away the £10,000 to you has to be more. In other words, losing £10,000, parting with £10,000 has to be the cheapest deal compared to what they're going to get. Now, this is where we try and load up with features. Yeah. Oh, you get 24/7 support, you get proactive customer care, you get this, you get that, you get the other. But actually, for 10K, what people are really focused on is the impact. Yeah, your features, your service creates an impact, and your customer, your clients will be thinking about, as you explain what you do, the impact that could have on their business. And if they think that that impact is not good enough, we don't need it. If they think that impact isn't big enough, they don't need it, or it's too expensive. So I always think about it a little bit like this. If I'm trying to sell something for £10,000, I've got to think at least of a £100,000 problem. And some of you are going, what the hell are you talking about there? £100,000 problem. Hopefully you're all with me and I've not put you to sleep yet. The £100,000 problem is, if somebody's going to give you £10,000 for your service, the impact has to be the removal of at least a £100,000 problem, 10 to 1 ROI. Now, many of your services won't have an obvious ROI in terms of financial. But everything does come back to time and money. Everything comes back to time and money. So when you're looking at your services, you need to make an assessment. Where's the payback in time and money for the client? Now, it's not your job to explain this. It's for you. Your job is to help your customers discover this. And that's not just a play on words. So if a customer goes, actually, this issue in our business, or the way we work currently is taking 5,000 man hours per year, and your service is £10,000, and it gets rid of half of those man hours, the customer can work out, okay, we save 2,500 man hours. What's the cost of that? Oh, wow. What's the efficiency drive in the business for that? What becomes more productive? What's the better result? So we're always looking for the impact on their business, which is a combination of the hassle and cost you remove and the value you add. In other words, the improvements in the business, the growth or development in the business. Those two components form your value. So when you're doing a sales call and you're talking to a prospect, what you're looking for are the pain that you will remove. So that's about asking the right questions, the pain that you'll remove, the opportunities you create, yeah, and the difference between those two. So in other words, if I've got 5,000 man hours, and now I've saved and I've got 2,500 man hours, what else can I achieve with my business because I've now got this capacity? And your job is to show your customers, help your customers add that up for themselves. If I tell you you can save 2,500 man hours, as a prospect, you may not believe me because I'm selling you something. So what your job is to do is to help people see that for themselves by asking the right questions, not leading questions, not trying to trip them up, but saying, so if you could automate that, how much time would that save? And they tell you, oh, about 50%. So 50%, okay, so that 50%, so you've got a person or somebody or a team doing 2,500 hours that they don't need to right now. How would you use that team going forwards if that 2,500 hours, you got that back? What would you do with that? Well, actually, we could focus on customer care. Great, so you could focus on customer care so your customer service function improves. Great, so you've got your customer service function improves, you've saved 2,500 hours. I'm assuming that these 2,500 hours aren't minimum wage. And I go, no. So there's a big saving there. So, and the difference you're going to have is, bluntly, you're going to save 2,500 hours. You can now devote more time to your customer service function. So you're caring for your customers better. And the service is £10,000. Do you see how I framed the service in the context of the value, but I haven't told them, they've told me. So that's one of the first things I want to look at today, is really understanding where you're framing the value. But there's another element to this. So I talk about the £100,000 problem if you're selling £10,000 service. And likewise, if you're selling a £100,000 service, you have to have £1 million problem, yeah, or £1 million issue. And that's what you're looking for. Now, some people will say, well, my service doesn't stack up in the same way to pounds, shillings and pence. But in reality, in a customer's head or in a client's head, they always equate it to pounds, shillings and pence. Even if there's no monetary value, they are weighing it up against pounds, shillings and pence. In some way, shape or form, man hours, what their instinct tells them that's going to cost their business, which sometimes isn't always true, by the way. So just be careful, because sometimes what we do is we quote theoretical numbers, and then they can't see it for themselves, and so it undermines your whole proposition. So for an example, if I said to you, I can save you 50% of your man hours, they might go off the bat, I'm not sure you can. And so it starts from a position of doubt. So what you should do is in the questioning, ask people, how long do these reports take? So they say, oh, it takes us 10, 15 hours a month. Okay. And is that for the whole reports, for everybody? And you ask them, and oh, well, maybe 30 or 40. You've got to get the customer to see it for themselves, because they don't doubt their own figures, they just doubt yours. So if they tell you the figures, they tell you, and you follow their lead then, rather than you loading figures in and they doubt your maths. They rarely doubt their own maths. So hopefully that makes sense for you all there. So if your service is £10,000, you're looking for £100,000 worth of issues, savings and benefits. And bear in mind, the benefits will always be, you should always be cautious, because if you overpromise that, again, it undermines the value, because people doubt your figures or doubt your benefits, and then they curb it back and it undermines your value. So the danger actually for you, the danger is you give them too big of a benefit, or you lead with too big of a benefit. And actually what happens is you start from a position of doubt. So this is really key. And I know we're going through this at a pace, but if you create, even if, let's say for an example, your £10,000 service could save them £1 million. Yeah. Just because of the maths involved, 10,000 to save 1 million, they would not believe you, because it seems too good to be true. So you need to be cautious, and then you can leave that for further down the line. I know that sounds really strange, but we have this inbuilt instinct, grown-up business. We have this knowledge that if something's too good to be true, it probably is. So if you can deliver £1 million worth of value for £10,000, it might not be a smart move to actually boast it, because people might not believe you because it seems too good to be true. So, okay, so think about what is your £100,000, or if it's a £5,000, what's your £50,000 problem? You need to keep your benefits realistic, otherwise people don't believe it and they undermine the value. So in other words, they question whether it's really true, and that undermines your value. So that's the first point I want to make. So any questions on that, just let me know. And if you want the 100K PDF, we'll email it to you. Just drop us a line on the email here somewhere, hi@maverick.io, and we'll send it to you. So the next thing I want to look at is, I've actually done this diagram wrong, is this diagram here. And I'll just fill it in for a minute. This will make sense. If you can read my writing. So a lot of you will have positioned your service based on the market rate. Now, if you want to go outside of the market rate, I could show you like demand curves and all that kind of stuff. But the simple way to think about it is, your service is priced on a diagram like this. Somewhere you are positioned as a dot in this market somewhere. Your competitors are here, everybody's here on this diagram. Now, here's the bit that most people don't get. So depending on where you position yourself here, actually the most valuable place to be is, obviously you want to be high price, yeah, and you want an urgency, because that's the business that closes the quickest, paying with urgency and high price. So this is the best place to be, positioned on price. So you'd be very high price and paying an urgency. In other words, there's a big problem. But actually, this size of the market is minuscule, yeah? So there's only like a tiny amount of people in this space, yeah? Now, you don't want to be down here either, because guess what? there's only a tiny amount of people in this space. Yeah, the actual sweet spot is somewhere around here. This is where the volume is, somewhere along this line, in this kind of space here. Yeah, so this is where the market is. There's a leaning towards urgency and pain, but actually down here, if there's no urgency, yeah, if there's no urgency or pain, actually the price usually goes down. Yeah, no urgency or pain. In other words, if the company's not in difficulty, if it's not hurting, they're not going to make a decision until it hurts a bit more. So those kind of prospects, they might roll on for weeks and months and months and months until they finally make a decision because there's no urgency. So it's quite dangerous to be pursuing these people because they take a long time. Doesn't mean you don't, but where the sweet spot is actually about here. So you're significantly higher priced than the market, but you're speaking to a more pressing and a more urgent issue. So when you look at your value proposition as your service, have a look and go, does it speak to people who have an urgent and pressing issue? Does it speak to people who have an urgent or pressing issue? Because if it doesn't, there's no impetus to take action. Now, the other scenario of this is, and we've all seen it, the extreme of the burst pipe in the kitchen. Yeah. So you come home from work and you walk into the kitchen and it's flooded with water, and it's flooded with water, excuse me, and you go, oh no, we need an emergency plumber. Can you negotiate a price with an emergency plumber? Can you negotiate a price with an emergency plumber? Generally, you can't. Yeah? You can't because you can't get a low price for urgency. Yeah? And if you're offering a low price for urgency, you are mad, because the law of supply and demand says you should not do that. So low price for urgency is madness. Yeah? So you've got urgency, low price for urgency. Don't do it. Really don't do it. Right? So we know that when there's a pain or urgency, the price is going to be more. Yeah? Human nature. So think about your messaging, your positioning, your value proposition. Does it speak to people with a pain and urgency? I'm not talking about them going bankrupt if they don't get your service. I'm talking about what are the challenges that are pressing on a business that could be related to your service? What are the pressures they've got in their company that give them an impetus to take action that are equal to a big value problem? And remember that ROI method, that if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So you don't want to be positioned. If you have £1 million solution for £1 million problem and you price £10,000, you'll lose out because there'll be a doubt in the market. Think about it from a tendering point of view. It's very rare that you find that a client is happy with the cheapest quote. And when they do, they are prepared to compromise on what they want to get a result. So the other thing to bear in mind is you want people who are in urgent need. There's a pressure that don't want to compromise on the result. And we'll come to that one in a moment. Rothel, yes, you can contact several plumbers, but very few of them can negotiate. And if I tell you now, if one said, I can come for £50, but it might be 6-7 hours, and one says, I can come in the hour and it's £300, you go with the £300 because your house is being destroyed moment by moment. Yep. Unless you admit to turn the water off and you live with it for 6 hours, then fine. But if you're not prepared to live with it, then you will pay extra. So that's the first thing. Where do you sit on this urgency and pricing matrix? You should always be sat here, somewhere around here in the middle between this and this. Too far over and it's tricky. You want to be somewhere in this box here, but not down here. So you can be in this space and do very, very well. 20%, 30%, 50%. I've seen people charge double the market rate when they appeal to urgency and pain, where the company does not want to live with that issue any longer. Everybody still with me? Now, this next one will hopefully slot everything into place, because I'm flying through this. You're all a quiet bunch today. So what I'm going to do is put you and a competitor. Right? Now, we all think that our service is a bit better than the competitors. We all think that we're the best at what we do. And I'm not saying you aren't. But from a customer's perspective, a customer has an outcome or a piece of an impact that they want to make on their business. So when a customer's looking at your service, there's probably one key objective they really want to achieve. There's one primary objective that they want to achieve, and then there's lots of other little ones. Yeah, but there's always one big thing that's like the deal maker. So when a customer's looking, they will be comparing you, but they'll be judging you pretty much against one metric. The other metrics are bonuses. But if a customer's wanting to save money or drive efficiency, it will be the money or the efficiency in their business. What's the motivator that wants them to buy? So let's say, for an example, customers approaching you and a competitor and looking for service A. Yeah? So they're looking to say, can you and the competitor achieve service A? Everybody still with me? So A could be anything: telephone answering, marketing, coaching, consultancy, cybersecurity, IT services. It could be anything. But they will be looking at it against their own criteria that they've decided. Not yours, theirs. So they will evaluate it and go, well, they both can kind of do the job. They both can kind of do the job. Hopefully you're with me. So then they'll look at, benefits, the B's, the B list of things, right? And this is where the B list, you might differ a little bit, yeah? So it might be a little bit different, but actually, fundamentally, they're going to make a decision on this one. And the B's are the bonus. So let me give you a quandary. Let's say, for an example, you're both charging 10 grand. Who do they pick? Who do they pick? Anybody want to guess? Who do they pick? And don't say you because it's yours. Who would you pick if the service looked similar, the B list was different but complementary, and they were both the same price? Who would you pick? Anybody want to guess how you would pick? And let's just assume, all things being equal, they're pretty much certain that both A's, the primary goal of the service that they want to achieve, both would hit it, or both the service describes what they need. Anybody want to guess which they'd pick? No? Well, the answer is, we don't know. We don't know. Yeah? Marco says neither. We don't honestly know which way a client would go. So let me put something to weigh this. Let's say on this side, you have some market awareness of this company. So what do I mean by market awareness? I mean that they've seen you, they've seen your brand, they've seen some of your content on social media, they've seen all of that. Do you think that would add any weighting? Anybody think that that would add any weighting? Anybody think that would add any weighting? In other words, would it shift the balance? If these people are more, you're more well known in the market, if they are already aware of you because of they've seen you around, they're familiar with you. Well, it might add a little bit. So we'll put, say, 5%. Let's say 5% weight. So it's now 45, 55 to you. What about if you've got a relationship with them? Do you think that would add some weighting? If you've got a relationship with them, do you think you'd stack up a bit better? Well, actually, the relationship would probably swing it by another 20%. And I'm just using figures to give you an example, right? So, yeah. So what happens now if you've been educating them on your on this issue through social? And so you're seen as a thought leader, for an example. What weighting do you think that would add? Do you think it would add a bit more? Say 10%? Do you get my logic here? There's a lot of things that can change the weighting of your price. Now, let's say we scrub all of that. Let's get rid of that. And go, you've got a relationship with this person versus these people cold outreached. Yeah? Where do we think it would go now? Hopefully I'm turning some light bulbs on here that actually some of the things that unlock a deal are not tangible in the same way, because human beings are creatures, emotional creatures, not logical creatures. So you could have the same deal, the same features, but people would choose this over this. Why? Because they trust this side more. So if you have trust in this side and this side, they lose because they trust you more. So they believe you on these A and B points more than this person. So let me give you another scenario. We'll stick with this person doesn't know you, and this person you focused on a relationship and they trust you. They might not trust you with their children, they might not trust you with £1 million, they might not do all of that, but there's a level of trust. There's a level of confidence, even if it's a small amount. Yeah, Susie, bang on, relationship will win, right? So let me just put this here. So let's say we've got 10% trust, yeah? So they don't trust you with their kids or anything like that. They just trust you enough to go, you know what you say you can do. I believe you know what you're doing, yeah? I believe you know what you're doing. And I have a level of relationship, right? Now you're 11 grand. Who do they go with? Who do they go with if you're charging £11,000 and they're charging 10? But they believe you and they have a relationship with you. Anybody? They go here. Why? Because they know you, they trust you, and the outcome, this is the crazy, crazy thing about human nature. If you have a relationship with a person, they trust you. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. It's an old wise saying, right? Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. So some of you have found that actually this goes against you when you're trying to remove an incumbent. There's a supplier already in place, whole other webinar and seminar this one. But there's a supplier in place and you can't dislodge them, even though they're charging a lot more and your price is cheaper. Why? Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. There's a level of trust. Actually, if that level of trust is high enough, you can actually go to about 30% higher if they have more trust in the impact that you bring versus they bring. 30%, yeah, you can go up in price if the relationship and the trust is there. So, thinking about this and thinking about the 100k problem, if you want to sell a 10k service, thinking about the pain and where your price is based on the pain, let me just put a case together. If a company's looking to really resolve a major issue, yeah, and that issue is costing them £100,000. I'm just using numbers here to help you. So they've got a real major issue. It's a £100,000 problem. Or it could be £1 million problem. It could be a £10 million problem. It could be a £1 billion problem. But they would expect to pay a price commensurate? I said that right? They would expect to pay a price that it balances with the value. If it doesn't balance with the value, they won't believe you. Notice the theme here, belief. So they won't believe you if I said I can solve £1 million problem with a 10k price. They wouldn't believe me. They would not believe me, right? So if you said £1 million problem, you can fix £1 million problem, and you ask for 10k, they might, the theory is that people go, oh, they'll throw the money at us and try it and suck it and see. They don't. They see that, oh, 10k, I'm throwing 10k away on something that's not going to work. So it's really strange the way pricing works. It's very psychological. But part of your sales process is to help them add up the value of the problem so that when they see your price, they see your price in context with the value of the problem and the impact it can deliver. It's not just the benefits that make the sale, it's actually the problem that helps you make the sale. So relationships always win, Susie, up to a point. There is a point, but actually it's a lot higher than this. It's actually somewhere around double. Obviously, the numbers have to be different, but if there's certainty over the impact, they'll go up to the double. And how do you get certainty over the impact? Building relationships and building trust. Now, what does that mean for your business if you can charge 30% more? Let's just go 25%. Let's go 25% more. What does that mean to your business? What does that mean to the way you can deliver for clients? What does that mean to your profitability? All because you've invested time in building trust and relationship. And the great thing about the world now is it's digital. You can build trust virtually. You can share insights, you can share articles, you can showcase your knowledge to help people build trust in you. Versus what lots of people are doing is churning out stuff, telling people how amazing they are, telling people that they've worked with all these big brands, hoping that telling people is the answer. But it isn't. Telling people information, telling people I can fix your £100,000 problem doesn't mean they believe you. Helping people believe is the fundamental change. And Susie's right. You get a higher quality client and you need less clients. Or if you have the same volume of clients, you have a more profitable business. So if you can charge more because you invest in relationship and trust, it might not seem so sexy compared to firing out pitch messages where you can hit like 200 people over the head a day. But actually, you win on this basis. You win on this basis. And let me tell you, by the way, if you do cold outreach, you still have to build trust if you want to close a sale. It's just a longer process. You have to build trust to make a sale. Nobody gives money unless they believe it can happen. The only scenario where a customer or a client would give you money where there's risk is if they know and are prepared to accept a risk. If there's a gamble, basically, we don't know if it'll work, but we'll have a go. Yeah? And the only reason people would do that, have a gamble, is because they're in such extreme pain, they'll try anything. It's so big of a deal, they'll take risks. But outside of this group here, which you don't really want to be in, people who will gamble with your service, yeah? Or you don't. If you think about it, you've got gambling here as well. So you can gamble here, and you can gamble on this line here. In other words, it's so cheap, it's worth a punt. Or I'm in so much pain, we just have to try something. Yeah? You do not want to be there, and you don't want to be anywhere past this line where there's no urgency. You go too far, it's a gamble, and over this side, it's like, oh, we don't need to do that right now. There's no impetus. So trust and relationships are the keys to higher prices. So let me give you some tips. One of the things I do is I spend a lot of time on social media, educating my audience, getting connected to the right people. Why do I want to be connected to the right people? Am I going to pitch them all? No. Am I going to try and sell to them all? No. Am I going to share value? Yes. Am I going to add value? Yes. Am I going to try and elevate myself as an expert in the market? Yes. Why? Because when I do that, I can build my trust levels before I've ever spoke to somebody. So I'd challenge you, if you're on LinkedIn or any channel, go and build networks with your prospects. Tons of them. You don't have to sell to them, you don't have to pitch to them. Just get them seeing your post, share value with them, build that trust. You know, one of the strangest things about social media is you can influence people without having to do anything other than post. And I'll tell you why I say this. When you email, when you cold call, when you send something in the post, if you still do that, it's proactively pushing stuff on people. In social media world, you can post, be connected, following, whatever it is, following each other. You can be in that space where you're sharing your insight, you're speaking to the needs of your audience, and they're seeing it every now and then, getting familiar with you, getting to understand who you are, elevating you as an expert. But more than that, some of you will know this from election campaigns and things, is that the more you're consistently repeating a message, the more confident people believe that you know what you're doing. I know that seems strange, but we've seen this in the last few years with election campaigns and all sorts, where people have made slogans and just repeated them, and people buy into it. Now, I'm not saying you make false promises like politicians. What I'm saying is the consistent message, the consistent education, just being in front of people multiple times builds trust. In fact, somebody messaged me on LinkedIn. I connected with her after she came to one of these events. And she messaged me on LinkedIn and said, I feel like I've known you for years. Why? Because I do these things. I share stuff on LinkedIn on a regular basis. So they're seeing me on a regular basis, building that trust, that relationship, and that market knowledge that they understand. Dean really understands his topic. Dean knows what he's talking about on these issues. So this is the difference. But what we do, and maybe some of you have been a little bit guilty of this, I don't know, is we think that just because we've got A and B, that will be enough to clinch the deal. But it isn't. It's this stuff that actually clinches the deal. It's this stuff here, the authority, that tips people over into buying. It tips people into saying you. It convinces people that it's worth the extra money because of the confidence this all brings. Hopefully this makes sense, and I've not just rambled for 46 minutes. Do we have any questions? If you've got any questions, or you want to share your ideas, or you want to ask how would this apply to me, now's the time to do it. Otherwise, because I've only got 14 minutes left. But hopefully you see that the outcome, the impact, the primary impact that the customer's looking for, yeah, which is here, what's the big value piece? The primary impact is one thing. Then you've got the secondary impacts, which are also useful, but really it's all about the primary impact. That justifies the price. and then they weigh it up. But if you're up against a competitor or a rival or they're price checking, these things play a pivotal role. If somebody can buy something for £5,000 and you're £7,500, the only reason that they would choose you is a higher level of confidence that you can deliver the goods. The A. So it's not about the fact that you can deliver A, it's about their confidence that you can deliver A. You get that through relationship, you get that through authority, and you get it through trust. Those three things unlock higher prices, particularly when you're up against a competitor. Yeah, and just a reality check. There's always going to be somebody cheaper than you, always. So you're always going to have competition. Yeah? Yeah, Susie, it applies exactly the same to in-person sales. If they don't trust you, they won't buy. If they don't believe you, and there's two levels of belief, by the way, and this is a bit of a mouthful. Do people believe you can do what you say you can do? Most of your clients will believe that you can do what you say you can do. Yeah, in other words, most people say, we help people save money on X, or we help people grow to Y. They'll believe you can do point A. Most clients will believe you can do point A. Yeah? It's not about whether you can deliver point A. It's about whether you can deliver point A for them. It's one thing for you to help other people, but can you help us? And that's the belief bit. That's where this stuff becomes important. What makes you different from somebody else who's charging the same price is their level of belief that you can deliver A for them. Not that you can deliver A, because every client will say to you, I'm sure you're really good at what you do, but we've decided to go with, well, if they think you're really good at what you can do, why have they not picked you? Because they believe that the other company, your competitor, can do it better for them. So it comes down to confidence in your A versus confidence in their A. Real simple. So do they believe you can say what you can do? And do they believe you can say what you say you can do for them? And that's where those things come important. And that's how you go to a higher price. More confidence, higher price. Bigger issue, higher price. Hopefully my scribbles have helped you today. I thought I'd do a whiteboard. I didn't want to do death by presentation or death by PowerPoint, so I thought I'd do it a bit more interactive. Does that make sense to everybody? Does this kind of slot into place? You don't want to be a gamble. You don't want to be such a low ticket gamble that it's just worth a punt. You want to be in this place here where there's a good degree of discomfort in the business, because that's where the value is. The value is not in selling something to somebody with no discomfort. Whole of the session about finding the pain points of your customers, whole of the session. But you've got to be, a company has to be dissatisfied with the status quo to need a new service. And your job is to find it and leverage it. Yeah, that's sales, right? You've got to leverage somebody else's need to show you can add value into that need. So the level of pain determines the price. The level of impact determines the price, in other words, the result. So you've got the level of pain, the level of result, impact, and then the relationship, the trust and authority confirms you versus a competitor. 3 different models to explain how you justify a higher price. We'll go through it again. The level of pain, yeah, to the price, pain to price. So in other words, discomfort, things you're unhappy with, hurting stuff that's saying we can't do this anymore, this has got to change. Yeah, that's, in a SWOT analysis, this would be your weaknesses and threats. Yeah, and this impact would be your opportunities. What could happen as a result? If we did this, what could potentially happen? So that's going forwards. This is looking at where it is now, and then this is comparing it against somebody else, and it's all about confidence and certainty. And you can control this. Let's say, for an example, you've got 500-600 prospects you're looking to target. You should be on LinkedIn now, sharing insights, connecting with them, adding value into their world, without pitching and just adding value. Now, if you go into the whole sales mode on LinkedIn, that's a other session altogether. But at the very least, you should be making sure that your 500-600 prospects that could potentially buy your service in the next 12 months are being educated to give you a relationship, a trust, and an authority advantage, so that when you're up against that competitor, they already know you, they know a bit about you, they know you know what you're talking about, and you have an advantage. Any other questions? Any other questions? Going once? Oh, just a reminder, if you want the 100K PDF, happily email it to you. There's the email, hi@maverick.io. We'll send it to you. It's free, there's no cost to it. It just talks about how you can use one PDF to engage clients. And again, plays to that authority piece. When you educate your clients about their own challenges, we call it diagnostics. When you help somebody diagnose their issues and understand their issues better, you automatically gain trust and authority. So some of you watching this will go, oh, that Dean showed me everything I already knew. And some of you will go, he's just helped me understand something a little bit better. Even if it's just a little bit, and hopefully some of you will go away, hopefully some of you will go away and think, he kind of really knows what he's talking about. And when next time you're stuck in terms of how you get high value clients, you're going to go, where should I go? And you'll come and find me, hopefully. If you want the PDF, drop us a line, 100K PDF, shows you how to use one PDF. Any other questions, please drop us a line, find me on LinkedIn, happy to answer your questions. 3 diagrams will help you raise your prices and rocket your profit. Thanks for joining me. We'll be back next week with another session, same time, same place.
Past year, Maverick has helped generate more than 15 million in new business. The biggest reason for this is our 90-day training and implementation platform we call the Accelerator Program, where we teach your team to sell on social media with an implement-as-you-go strategy. It's not a pre-recorded course, it's hands-on sales training that develops and grows with you, with 90 days of real action that generates business and long-term revenue. So who is it for? This program is for entrepreneurs, marketing and sales professionals who want to sell without ads, cold calling, or pushy tactics. A better way of selling with real steps to take which speeds up your sales process without burning any bridges. These are just a few examples of results our members have achieved using the Accelerator. As you can see, the Accelerator isn't about quick wins, it's about building a better sales process. If you'd like to learn more, just book a call with the Maverick team and we'll show you how the Accelerator program can win you new business.